All right, let's talk about moving. It's a whole lot of logistics, right? And one of the biggest question marks that can pop up in your budget, it often boils down to just one thing: stairs. It sounds so simple, but do movers really charge you extra just for hauling your stuff up a flight or two? We're going to get right into it.
So let's just put the question out there, point blank. Maybe you've got that awesome third-floor walk-up with a great view or a beautiful two-story house. Are the movers going to look at those steps and just slap an extra fee on your bill? It's a really crucial question, especially when you're trying to keep that moving budget in check.
So the short answer is yes. Yep, almost every single moving company is going to charge you extra for stairs. But hold on, it's not just some random fee they pull out of thin air. There are actually some very real, very solid reasons behind it, and that's exactly what we're going to break down right now.
Okay, let's try to look at this from the mover's point of view for a second. Why do stairs just completely change the entire equation? Well, it turns out there are some super practical reasons that directly affect the safety of the crew, the time it takes, and just the overall difficulty of the job.
I mean, just think about it for a second. It's not just about, getting a little tired. Hauling a heavy sofa up 3 flights of stairs, that takes way more physical effort. And with that comes a much higher risk of injury for the crew. Not only that, but it also raises the chances of your stuff, or even your walls and banisters, getting dinged up or damaged. All of this just slows the whole process down, which means more labor time and, yep, you guessed it, higher costs.
So really, you shouldn't think of the stair fee as some kind of penalty. It's actually a direct way to cover all that increased labor, risk, and time we just talked about. At the end of the day, it's really about making sure the moving team is fairly compensated for doing a job that is way more difficult and dangerous than a simple ground floor move.
Okay, so now we get why they charge for stairs. But how do they actually figure out how much to charge? This is where things can get a little tricky because, well, not all companies do it the same way. So let's dive into the most common methods you're likely to see.
This pretty much lays out the 4 main ways they do it. First up, you've got your per-flight fee. That's a simple set charge for each flight of stairs. Then some companies prefer an hourly surcharge, where they just add a little extra to their standard hourly rate. You might also run into a per-item fee, especially for those really heavy or awkward things like a piano. And finally, some movers just give you a flat rate, where the stairs are already factored into the total price. The big takeaway here? You absolutely have to know which method your mover is using.
But wait, there's more. Beyond just how they calculate the fee, other things can really influence that final number on your bill. See, it's not just about whether or not you have stairs. It's about the kind of access you have.
And having an elevator? Oh, that is a total game changer. A lot of the time, it completely eliminates the stair fee because it's just so much faster and safer for everyone. Now, if you only have stairs, you're pretty much guaranteed a fee, and it's probably going to go up with each flight. But here's a little heads up. Even with an elevator, if it's a super long walk from your door to the truck, you might get hit with something called a long carry fee instead. So good to know.
And then, of course, there are the items themselves. Movers, well, let's just say they have a special place in their hearts and their pricing for certain things. We're talking about pianos, pool tables, those gigantic sectional sofas, heavy appliances, you get the picture. These things are just a nightmare to get up and down stairs. They usually need more people or special equipment to move them safely, so you can pretty much bet they'll add an extra charge on top of the regular stair fee.
All right, so I know it might be sounding like these fees are totally unavoidable, but listen, you are not powerless here. There are absolutely things you can do to take back some control and keep these extra costs to a minimum.
So here's your action plan. First, before the movers even ring your doorbell, clear out all the hallways and stairwells. Get rid of any clutter. Every second they spend trying to navigate around your stuff is a second you're paying for. Next, if you're able, move all those smaller, easy-to-manage boxes down to the ground floor yourself. The less they have to carry up and down the stairs, the better. And of course, the golden ticket, if your building has a service elevator, reserve it. That is the #1 best way to avoid stair fees altogether.
Look, if you want to avoid any nasty surprises on moving day, you have to ask direct questions. Seriously, don't be shy about this. Ask them exactly how their stair fee is calculated. Ask if there are fees for long carries. Ask if the quote includes stuff like fuel surcharges or taxes. And the most important thing of all, get a detailed, itemized quote in writing. If a company gets all vague or won't put it on paper for you, that is a huge red flag.
So when you boil it all down, it's pretty simple. Being proactive is your best friend here. If you communicate clearly with your mover ahead of time and do a little bit of prep work at home, you can absolutely manage these costs and avoid that awful feeling of a surprise on your final bill.
So this brings us to a final question, something for you to think about. The next time you look at a moving quote,
Maybe you have one right now or you're about to get one. Ask yourself this. With everything we've just talked about, do you really understand every single charge on there? Is that quote truly as transparent as it ought to be?